Not so. I just glad we had that time together, and after he was done with the trellis, we all went to the bar. We had burgers and beer. Go get it. We watched the Rockies, and I am so sad right now. And Brooke and Lindsay, I lost my dad at a very young age too. So if I can help you both in any way, I told you, Lindsay, if I can help you get through things, I will. And my kids know their grandpa has stories just like this that have been passed down by everybody. And that's what we do. That's what we do. We tell stories about my dad. You know. But I will. Maybe. Yeah, Dad inspired a lot of people all over Facebook and all of Brooke and my friends and Mom and Dad's friends from Iowa and a lot of different states. We're all toasting to Dad at 4 o'clock today, and I knew that that was really special because it was his love of beer. Everybody can get into that, and like everybody, he had that thing that he shared with people, and a lot. His friends in Iowa were doing a shotgun salute for him, all his hunting buddies. So I feel the love of all those people, all of our friends from in all the different places that we've lived and interacted with different people, that they're all moved by my dad and his life and the love that he shared with them. So, thank you.
Well, I got a million of them. You don't need to hear all that. Growing up, my dad was a real baseball fan, being from St. Louis and stuff, so we really had no choice but to be baseball players. And I can remember when we were 15 and 16, we played on a team, Holt team it was called. That was kind of the division we played in. Dan was really a good player. Dan was an excellent baseball player. And in those days, he was a catcher. And I can remember him he was a pretty cocky guy back there. And we had some pretty good pitchers in those days too. And I can remember when Dan, a guy would swing and miss the ball, Dan would catch it and then step up and just kind of wave the ball in the batter's face. And they said, "I think this is what you're trying to hit right here." And then he turned and throw back to the pitcher. And that's just that was kind of the way he was, And he'd tell the guy, "Look out, this next one's coming right at your head," and the guy was shaking up there and stuff. Then the next year they moved him to shortstop because he had such an incredible arm. And I can remember when we were playing, and I'd been catching too. My dad always said if you wanted to be involved in the game of baseball, be a catcher. Well, when I got to be 6'5", it was like, well, it doesn't make any sense anymore. So this guy that we played for at that time, and we actually called and talked to Sue today, which I think is just so ironic. His name was Roman Garcia. He wasn't 3 or 4 years older than us, probably. Well, more than that. I guess we were 16. He was probably 23. And he moved me to first base. And so, and they moved Dan to shortstop when I got on the team. And so they would hit something, and Dan would play so deep in the hole that he could get to everything. And he would catch it, and then he would just stand and hold it until the guy got about 2/3 of the way down the line, and then he just uncorked it. It's like watching Troy Tulowitzki nowadays. The arm that he's got. Dan was exactly the same way. He just would stand there and wait for the guy to get down the line a little bit, and then he'd get him at first base.
He would have kicked my ass if I had tried pulling something like
that. Probably.
Yeah.
So we had a real good ball club. We had to win a couple of tournaments. We'd win a tournament here in Denver, and then we'd go up to Laramie and we'd win a tournament. And one year we got a chance to go back to Iowa and play in a tournament. And so here's a bunch of 15 and 16-year-old kids with a 23-year-old and a 24-year-old guy, and we're all on the train going back to Burlington, Iowa for this big tournament. And so you can imagine, it's just havoc on that train. And I can remember one of the things that happened was it was nighttime, and everybody was, kind of settling down a little bit and stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm seated, like, close to the front of the car, but back on the left-hand side next to the window. And all of a sudden, I see Dan sneaking up with a pillow like this. And there's a guy sitting like 2 seats in front of me right on the aisle on the other side, and Dan thinks it's me. So here he comes with his pillow. He reaches around and just smacks the guy right in the face with a pillow. And of course, this guy jumps up and he wants to know what the hell's going on. And of course, Roman at that time, our coach, was like, he didn't have any answer for anything either. What in the world's going on, Dan? I thought that was Steve. I thought it would be okay. He's my brother. I can do whatever I want to. So that was our trip back to Iowa. A lot of sports memories with Dan. Like I say, he was an incredible athlete. He went to UNC to play some baseball, actually. I remember going down to Air Force and watching down there. Then he got into the prep school, and he played football on the prep school team. Wide receiver. He hadn't played wide receiver ever, I don't think, ever in his life. But he was just such an incredible athlete he got down there. This is another great story. This was during Vietnam. And Dan had come out of the regular Air Force to get into the prep school with the idea of maybe then going to the academy. And so it was in the spring, and God loved Dan, but he just wasn't a good student. He could do some ciphering a little bit, but his spelling was just atrocious. I mean, they made spell check for Dan. So it's right towards the end, and his grades aren't really, really good. He's struggling a little bit, and so they call him into the commandant's office, and they go, well, Dan, it doesn't look good for you. We're going to have to probably put you back into the regular Air Force. Yeah, oh, no, I really want to go to the academy. That's been my dream all my life. But, he was there for a year to play football, I think. That was his one thing. So he talked him into it, just like he did to his hands. And they kept him around, until right towards the end, at the end in the spring, and then he said, all right, I was just kidding, I'll go back into the service. So he was able to get a couple more months there, and then, so we're all thinking, he's going to Vietnam. Poor guy, I mean, he has no choice. He screwed them over like that. This is going to be the worst thing ever. Well, he ends up in California, on Vandenberg, and he's a missile guidance guy. Got some Woody or something he drives to work, Of course, he always had a neat car, and we'd love to see him come home because he had so many cars. He's had more cars, I think, than Tony and Ginny and I all put together. He was always a car guy. But he was quite an athlete, and obviously quite a sweetheart boy.